Welcome to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm Keff Ciardello. This is Mike Orakpo, and we're back. This is episode 8. We're here talking about the Bobcats and their upcoming game, Georgia State, this Saturday, looking for their first win at 0-3. And another tough opponent for them. They kind of got some world beaters coming into town. When they beat Tennessee to start week 1, and so Georgia State has a pretty good feel on them. Have you gotten to look at them at all? What are your thoughts on Georgia State?
I mean, Georgia State, they had that big win against Tennessee. And, you look at their other win, they had a great offensive showing against that Furman team that they played. Obviously, it's not an FBS program, but the fact that they have a senior experienced quarterback who are breaking records. I think he broke a couple of records that game. They've been they've been running the ball very well. I mean, they're averaging over 200 plus yards on the ground per game so far. So it looks like a solid team. Obviously, they're coming off of a bad loss against that Western Michigan program, but this Georgia State team looks like definitely a solid team coming in town. Yeah,
you mentioned their senior quarterback Dan Ellington, and the record. It's 5 touchdowns. Georgia State record for most touchdowns in the game was the record you were talking about. He's a pretty special player. He's a senior. He transferred in Itawamba Community College. He transferred into Georgia State from there. And he was their quarterback last year too, and he really came onto the scene last year. Definitely a dual threat guy. He can pass. It's not saying, whenever you say dual threat, a lot of people just think he can run.
Right.
This is a guy who can throw and run, and that's why their run game goes, because he can really get it going for them. He did last game. He got hurt. I know he left early.
Yeah.
But from what I'm seeing,
I believe he's playing.
Yeah.
This week.
From what I'm seeing, he's playing. So, shucks for the Bobcats. No relief under center for their opponent.
Right.
But no, he's a pretty good quarterback. Definitely somebody that they'll need to look out for this upcoming week. And Georgia State. It's interesting. They went out and they beat Tennessee, and everyone was real hyped about them beating a P5. But they've sputtered a little bit the last 2 weeks, especially losing to Western Michigan last week. It's not the strongest opponent the Bobcats are facing to start off conference play. This is also a team they beat last year. I think it was 41-34, something like that. They beat one of the 3 wins last year. So
Texas State
won.
Yeah,
Texas State beat Georgia State last year, and so this is an obtainable game, I feel, for the Bobcats, especially because the defense really isn't the strong part for Georgia State, especially at corner. And this is a passing offense for Texas State. So this is a defense I think they can put points up. Last week we talked about SMU. I don't think they can compete toe-to-toe with point-wise. This opponent, I do think they can. I think Georgia State's going to get a little leeway. They're going to run into a pretty tough defense with Texas State.
Yeah.
But they'll get a little more leeway on the defense. But Bobcats will be able to keep up this week, I feel. More so than last week. They'll be able to go a little more toe-to-toe there. Against Georgia State, but it's still. Coach yesterday was talking about Sean Elliott, their coach at Georgia State. Spavital was talking about him and all he's done for the program and all this. So he's really growing a good program down there for the Panthers. So it'll be an interesting game this week. I saw Texas State is actually favored. Last I checked, it was 2 points. That might change by the time this comes out, but they're favored by 2 points. So. I mean, it's amazing. They're actually not the underdogs this week.
Yeah,
so that's good.
That's what is that? The first time this year.
First time this year. Definitely the first time this year that they're not underdogs in it. I went out to practice yesterday, kind of get a good feel of it all. And
how we look out there. What are some of the vibes, Keff, that you're getting from practice, man? To fill us in.
The defense is feeling good. They're still getting a lot of turnovers in practice.
Okay.
It's hard to tell if that's a really good defense or a really bad offense. But I like to be an optimist. So I'm going to say that bodes
turnovers on the scout team.
Yeah, when they do.
Okay, well that's always good.
Well, it's 11 on 11 actually, so it'd be like the ones versus the ones is where I'd see.
Turnovers against our offense.
Yeah. So that's where I'd kind of see some there. But the main thing that I saw is they're more fired up. Definitely a sense of urgency with the team and the coaches. People are yelling at each other more and stuff. And they're already starting to do changes. On the offensive line, they have Jacob Rowland listed as a backup, but he was actually going in with the first unit offensive line at left guard. And Eddie Rivas has been starting at left guard. He was a JUCO transfer that came in, and so there you can already see
they moved him back.
Yeah, they moved him back, and it seems like Rowland's going to be the starter out there. And you can kind of see they're shifting a lot around. You know, they know that at 0-3, what you've been doing isn't working, so you got to change it up. So I'd expect a few changes for this Georgia State game, as far as personnel wise. I mean, I saw a lot more Jacoby Hopkins too, a wide receiver, more so than I've seen him in most of fall camp, or most of the season, I should say, in those practices. So I could see a lot more of the younger receivers and some of the other running backs really starting to get in there and see what they can do and help this offense out and help the defense get off the field a little bit more. But yeah, let me pull up this depth chart here, or not a depth chart. This one is Georgia State when they played Western Michigan. I just wanted to see their rushing. Yeah, there you go. 210 rushing yards for them, and I mean 44 of it's coming from Ellington, the quarterback. And last year against Texas State, he had like 89 yards against Texas State. So you know that guy's going to run the ball. I mean, that's definitely something that they'll have to look out for.
I believe the senior running back came off of a 127-yard rushing game against West Michigan.
Trey Barnett. He's pretty good too. Averaging 6.7 every carry.
That's impressive.
But I'll say that, it seems like they definitely favor the run more than the pass, and I feel like that bodes well for Texas State.
Yeah.
With a pretty strong front seven, and you kind of saw a little bit of Wyoming. They can, if you're a running team, they can hang with you for a bit. Their offense needs to help them out, and they didn't help them out against Wyoming.
Right.
But when it's a stronger running team, they definitely they play better against that. Because only 20 pass attempts for Ellington last game.
Okay.
I mean, so that's right there. Let's see, the split is 41 rushes to 25 passes. So, I mean,
and even the score seems like it was a game that got out of hand.
Yeah.
57-10. They were losing 10-57.
Yeah.
So you would think that they will be, throwing the ball a little more than they did. So that's a big indicator that they love to run the ball.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. You're playing from behind. You'd think they'd want to pass more.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of interesting because after they beat Tennessee week 1, and now we've kind of seen Tennessee's not that great.
Right.
After what they've done the rest of the season. But they beat Tennessee. Then they had that next game against Furman. It was really close. They actually had to come back. They were down 18 points to come back and win that game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an FCS opponent that they had to come back against, a comparable MAC conference opponent in Western Michigan, and they get their butts handed to them, 57-10. I mean, so
the thing I get out of this Georgia State team is they're giving up points defensively. Mm-hmm. They're giving up points. I mean, they gave up 30 against Tennessee. They came back next game. They gave up 42 points against a Furman team. Then you look at Western Michigan, and they gave up 57 points. So that makes me feel good because now we're seeing that whatever offense we put on the field, we should be able to move the ball against those boys.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And that's what I was saying earlier, that this is a team that they can go toe to toe with offensively.
Yeah, offensively.
And match the points that are going to get put up.
Yeah.
Maybe even supersede.
And then I believe that our defense is going to put this team again in position to win this ball game. So if we can go toe to toe up against them on offensively, we'll be all right because their offense is not gonna. They're gonna meet against a very good defense.
Yeah.
A very good Texas State defense.
A defense that matches well against their style of
play, because they like to run the ball, and we have some pretty good rushing defense. Running defense. So we'll be all right against their offense. It's just I'm loving it. I'm loving the fact that they have a soft defense that's giving up some points. It seems like it's more pass defense for them. It's what it seems like. Yeah. Those Georgia State boys. But
this might be the easiest defense they've faced so far.
I believe so. This is a very winnable game for Texas State.
I think so.
This is a winnable game. I'm actually giving Texas State the edge. I think.
Me too.
I think this would be Coach Fab's first.
We agree.
We agree.
They're winning.
We agree.
All right. It's the first time we've agreed on a win. I mean, I picked Wyoming and I was wrong there.
Yeah.
I feel like you're 3-0 even though they're 0-3.
Yeah.
You're picking them there.
I think this would be the first win.
I'm with you there. That was going to be one of the deals I was going to ask is if you feel like they're going to win. I don't have a score or anything.
Yeah, I don't.
But
It's going to be a close game. Probably going to be something like a touchdown, maybe a 31-28, kind of game. But with me, the way I pick games is always matchups. That's how I pick games. It's always matchups. It's like, okay, if our offense is not very good right now, so we know that with us being able to beat a team, we have to play a softer defense for us to be able to be in position to win games. So when I look at Georgia State's defense, I mean, those guys are giving up points. People are moving the ball on them, both on the ground and through the air. So I believe that we should be able to have some success offensively. Defensively, we'll hold it down. Now, one thing that I did notice from this Georgia State team is they have a very great punter, and I know that's normally not what it's going to be on the highlights of a scouting report is their punter but they have a exceptional punter.
He's really good.
Yeah, he's really good.
Brandon Wright.
Brandon Wright. He's actually one of the best in the country, and he's the best in the conference and one of the best in the country. He's a Ray Guy, finalist leading up to it, first team All Sun Belt selection. Ray Guy is the National Punter Award that they give. So anytime you have a specialist on that watch
former
list,
Raiders punter Ray Guy.
Former Raiders punter.
Of course, I know that. I got to pepper in Raiders somewhere every podcast.
Right. So
he's exciting.
He can change the field positions. So when you look at that, what that's going to do is whenever we're consistently changing field positions is going to make our offense have to go down the field much further. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we already been having, some woes on offense. So that's going to be a very good plus for those guys. Yeah,
field position is a factor that people don't talk about a lot. That's very important. True fans definitely know that for sure. But one thing about Wright is I'm pretty sure he's an all three-phase kicker. He does kickoff, punt, and field goals.
Right.
So I mean, he's a real talent. I mean, we wouldn't bring him up if he wasn't.
Yeah.
He's
a stud, man.
He might be their best player, which is no dig on Ellington or any of the other guys on their team. I mean, he's that good. He's a guy you'll definitely see on Sundays.
He'll sink the field goals. He'll make the field goals. Mm-hmm. He's going to kick the ball out the end zone, and he's going to change the field position on punts. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll have to be ready for that one. Hopefully, he kicks a good one to Shareed. I'd love to see Shareed run something back.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it. K-Dot. That's my guy. I like K-Dot a lot.
Yeah, K-Dot is a stud too, man.
He took a kickoff against SMU. It didn't count. There's a flag. But, they didn't blow it dead till it was done. So, they'd still give him the points for the ability. He caught it in the end zone, and he got past the 50. And a kicker made him change direction. Someone else caught him. But, man, you really saw that straight down the field speed.
That speed, I saw it. Those are highlights. I think that's the play that's rolling around Twitter everywhere.
Man, he needs to get the ball in his hands. And Spavital said that before last week, and then he only had a catch for 2 yards against SMU. They got to find a way, a little jet sweep and end around something. Just put the ball in his hands and just let him do something. But I'd like to see him get a touchdown or a big play against Georgia State. That'll definitely help the Bobcats offense, obviously. But yeah, and I mean, besides K-Dot, there's a few other guys that I want to see get the ball more. Micah Hiltz is another guy I want to see kind of get into the mix more. TJ Graham, like to see him get some more passes. Jeremiah Haydell too. I feel like he's a guy who really showed a lot of signs last year. It hasn't been a big part of the offense this year, but he's another receiver that I feel like can be a big part of this Texas State offense. And I feel like a lot of it's going to be on the receivers this week because obviously they are committed to the run or committed to the pass. The Bobcats are. So these receivers are definitely going to need to step up because DBs for Georgia State aren't that great.
Yeah.
They're not setting the world on fire at that position. So should be good for that part of the field. We stopped early with our questions last week. Should we jump into those?
Yeah, we can jump right into it.
Let's jump into some of those. I haven't heard a lot of talk around recruiting class that this staff will need to bring on. Do you have any concerns about how we currently sit last in the Sun Belt with 5 recruits on 247 Sports? Do I still have that recruiting page? Oh, it looks like I went away from it. That's okay. I kind of have a good memory on those. Yeah, the current recruiting class. Am I concerned? Yes, I'm a little concerned. Just because it's only 5, and that's a really small amount. It's the smallest class I've seen to this point in a while here. Definitely from the Fran and Withers era, it's the least amount because both those guys seem to have a lot of commits pretty early. It is concerning, but I'm also confident in these coaches still getting used to it and getting on the recruiting trail. It's Spav's first time as the head coach and figuring out what it takes to recruit these kids, to get them to come in. It's still early on in that. That being said, they need to figure it out by December 22nd, the early signing period, and then the later signing period in February. They need to start evaluating talent and getting kids to visit. That's the big thing is getting them to visit. But I guess the question is, oh no, that was his next question. My bad. Do you have any concerns about with the Oh no, that's the same deal I was just talking about. Yeah, no, I do. I'm a little concerned, but I'm confident that they'll get it going. And if they get a few wins, winning always helps recruiting. Especially if you get some wins while recruits are visiting. I know some are going to come visit this Saturday. If they can get a W while playing Georgia State, that may breed some more commits. But yeah, a little concerned. I will.
And I am too. I am. I'm a little concerned, but not as concerned when you look at Withers' first year when he took over. His first recruiting class wasn't the best. The next year after, it wasn't. I think he began to recruit in 2017, right? That year was when he got his better recruiting class. So if you look at Spav, because Spav came, they came before this recruiting class that they had, right?
Right, yeah, they came at the end of November.
So
2018.
This would be his officially first recruiting class, which is the one where Withers did very well the next year. This will be his first full year. And I would have expected more splash just because of who he is and where he came from. That's what concerns me a little bit is just, he has the name and, he's coached some players, man. He's coached some programs. I mean, he's coached some of the best offenses in the country. The fact that we have so many Power 5 coaches on staff, you would think that would do a little bit more, flexing with some rings when you bringing in recruits and stuff like that. So I'm still looking for us to be able to get a little bit more of those recruits, those kind of splash recruits, kind of go toe to toe with some of these other FBS programs. But when you rankings aside, recruits, we can only know how good recruits are going to be when they get on campus. Unfortunately, we always want to look at being the best recruiting, but if you look at Withers' staff of recruits, I mean, he has some of the best recruiting class, and then we're here talking about we don't have talent on the team. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I totally understand that point.
Yeah,
because we are saying how good of a recruiter Withers is, and if you look at the defensive side of the ball, you see that coming through.
Right.
In
offensively,
there's some issues. Withers and those guys, they're defensive leaning coaches for sure.
You're right.
And so that's why the defense is as good as it is because of their recruiting. And the quarterbacks his guy was Willie Jones and Tyler Vitt. Willie Jones was the guy the heir apparent that he wanted to hand the ball to.
But looking at some guys on the defense, and this is just we can have a dialogue about this. But was Nick Daniels a Withers recruit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Because I think was Brian London a Withers recruit?
London was Fran. London was a Fran guy.
So, but Nick was a Withers guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nick was a Withers guy because I can think back to his freshman season.
Because this defense is good, but I mean, when you look at Frankie Griffin, that was a Fran guy. You look at Ishmael Davis, that was a Fran guy. You look at Brian London, that was a Fran guy.
Those are some really good
and those
points.
are some big names on defense. So it's like, he had some good ranking, but I mean, we would have to go back and see exactly who is his guys and what they're doing.
Well, I take a lot of issues with the rankings, 247 and Scout. Those are websites I've worked for.
Yeah.
And Rivals specifically with Bobcat Report, that where I kind of know the coaches have a lot of pull in some of those rankings.
Right.
You know, they say, hey, you know, this guy just committed to us, and he doesn't have a rating on your site, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's got 3 stars or 2 stars, whatever. So I don't put a lot of weight into the whole stars thing. I used to a lot more. The more I go on, the more I'm like, I'm going to watch some tape and see who his other offers are. I tend to look at that.
One thing about recruiting, one thing about rankings that I always say, coaches use coaches. It's like a win-win for coaches, because if you don't have the best recruiting class, then you're also going to say, oh, those rankings, you know, we got some good guys here. As long as we got our kind of guys that we like, we're going to get them on campus, and we don't pay attention to recruiting and all that stuff. Then the moment that they get the best recruits, or they have the number 1 recruiting class, and they boast it. Oh, we have the number 1 recruiting class in the conference. And it's so funny. Just like those guys at UT. I remember when they, you know, Coach Wash and Niver, those are great recruiters at UT, but they're boasting those number 1 recruiting classes in the Big 12 that they have over there. And if they didn't have those number 1s and they was getting beat out by some, then they're not going to be talking about that. They're going to be probably downplaying, you know, these ranking sites, and, you know, we know our guy.
Rankings don't matter.
They don't matter.
I'll take a 2-star guy. He's got the right tape.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like the PFT in the NFL. You know, the people only like to use those geeks. They don't know football and stuff as soon as, you know, something is not where they want it to be.
Shoot, Keenan Brown was one of the top tight ends to PFF, Pro Football Focus, with his ranking and everything.
Right.
And now he's out of a job. So I mean, you got to take those with a grain of salt, because even Texas State, I feel like, had the number 1 recruiting class in 2017 on 247.
Yeah,
they had the top class out of everyone. So
like for 2 years in a row, I believe,
because it was right up there.
It was 17 and then 18. I believe they were like top 2.
They were up there.
You know, they were up there in
App
recruiting.
State may have beat them.
Yeah, I think we were second in 18 with Withers. I think we were second in 18, first in 17.
Oh, okay.
And I just I
take those with the grain of salt.
You have to.
And I mean, our question was, are we concerned with it at all? And I mean, we're a little concerned.
Yeah.
A little concerned. Let's see what else we got. Could someone ask how McBride's eligibility is going? Also, can we have Jalen RPO for a player or two, or have 2 QB stances? We need to establish the run RPO makes it easier. Give the defense something to look about. First part's the question. Last is a little bit. And this is Eddie Lerma. Eddie Lerma again. We answered one of yours earlier. So let's do that. I can answer you on McBride's eligibility. They have sent in a hardship waiver. So he's a redshirt freshman. He was at Memphis last year, threw a handful of passes, and then they shut him down and redshirted him. Then he transferred back in early August, halfway through fall camp. And right away, they put in a hardship waiver. And what a hardship waiver is, in case you don't know, it's when a player is trying to get eligibility for another year or to play in that current season, and they have some sort of hardship, whether it's an injury, death in the family, something happens in their life that they could be granted an extra year of eligibility. So guys who got it were like Frankie Griffin and Ishmael Davis.
Yeah.
Both of them redshirted early when they came in with Fran, because they're both 6-year seniors.
Right.
They redshirted early, and then both of them in different seasons had season-ending injuries. So last season with Withers, they put in hardship waivers with the NCAA, and they both got passed, and that's why they're both back this year. Keenan Brown even put in a hardship waiver. He didn't play a whole lot at Oklahoma State, then he grad transferred to Texas State, and he only had 1 year. But they put in the hardship waiver, and he was actually granted an extra year for this year to play. Obviously, he didn't accept it, and he chose the NFL route. But those were 3 guys who got hardship waivers accepted last season, and a lot of those seemed, I know for sure Frankie and Ishmael, those were because of injuries. Now, the hardship waiver in McBride's case, he doesn't have an injury for him to have like a real solid case to get that hardship waiver in order to play this year. Because he wasn't a grad transfer, it's normal transfer where you have to sit out a year.
Right.
And I feel like the argument they're trying to use is, well, he redshirted that 1 year at Memphis. So let's let him bring him in here, and he'll have 3 years eligibility left. We'll count that as the 1 year he sat out. So whether he starts this year or next year, he'll have 3 years left to play at quarterback. The NCAA has not responded to his hardship waiver at all. That's what I've heard.
Okay.
It's not anybody holding it up, Memphis or anybody. It's just tend to drag their feet in these situations. There's no timeline with the NCAA whenever they put these type of deals.
That's
under
pretty
review.
interesting because you look at some other players around the country and it's almost instant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, I mean, what pools do they have? Who are they contacting? It's bizarre normally those things are like much quicker.
I will say with Keenan Brown last season, I found out in fall camp that they put in a hardship waiver, give him an extra year, and they didn't find out till near the end of the season that, hey, he can come back the following year, but by then he had already blown up on the scene, and it was looking pretty obvious he was going to go to the NFL. But it took a while with him as well. Why it didn't seem like it took as long is because he was playing while he was waiting. Because he was waiting for a ruling for an extra year of eligibility, not the current one. It feels like forever with McBride, and it kind of has been over a month. But it feels like forever because he's not eligible, so he's not able to get out there. I'm not very confident that he's going to be past this season, just because I don't what's his argument that he didn't get to play,
right?
That he wants to play right now, or he wants to be closer to home, to Capel. He's from Capel.
Yeah.
I also found out he went to Dripping Springs his first year, so he's kind of a local kid. His freshman year of high school.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere.
Yeah. Went to Dripping. Yeah. Apparently played a little receiver on varsity his freshman year. It was pretty good. Well, he was kind of the quarterback in waiting there.
Right.
At least they thought, and then he went to Capel. His dad went from a coach at Dripping to an administrator at Capel. That's what happened there. I think McBride is probably the best quarterback on this team, but they're going to have to wait till 2020 to see him.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately. And then the other part was about Jalen Gibson, right, Eddie? Let's see. Can we have a little Jalen RPO for a play or two? I'd like it. I think Jalen would be a fun dual threat, but when asked about, KTSW interviewed Jake Spavital on Monday for their show, and that was brought up. Jalen Gibson, if these quarterback issues, would you think about inserting Jalen Gibson back as the quarterback? And he kind of downplayed it. Spavital did. He was like, hey, he's working well at receiver. He's really coming along there. But you see in practice that Gibson still throws with the quarterback sometimes in some of their warm-ups, but I think they're trying to really tune him up and to become a receiver. Gotcha. I think they're kind of over the whole RPO thing. And RPO is not their brand. Like we were saying, they're not runners. They're committed to that air raid. So I wouldn't expect to see that at all. But we can go on to the next one unless you have anything to add there.
Nah, I mean, you gotta. Everybody does different things, guys. You just Coach Spav has his brand of football. They have their brand of offense of the way they run it. They're gonna stick to it. They're gonna find guys that's gonna be able to run it the way they want to run it. You don't see them doing RPO. I'm not a fan of getting into things that you don't do. I mean, stick to what you do and find players that you can be able to be successful with it.
And I think if it's an extended period of time that this scheme doesn't work, I'll be willing to say, okay, maybe it is the play calling and how they're drawing it up. But it's so early in the system. It goes back to what you were saying. They don't have their guys recruited in there yet. They haven't recruited guys specifically to fit their system. Yeah. They have players that were recruited to fit a different system. And
it just worked last year. Yeah. I mean, it's not like it worked 20. It just worked last year. Number 5, I think, in the country.
8 for West Virginia.
Okay, but I think a year before that they were they were the top 3 in the country. Even before that, they've consistently been a top 10 offense. They didn't just wake up one day and forgot how to run an offense. It's just you got to get their players in there to be able to be successful.
I mean, most coaches struggle in their first year. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing.
Neil Brown, 4-8 at Troy. I remember Troy was under 4-win team. Yeah. 4-8 his first season. Neil Brown.
Shoot.
Second year, 10-win season. The year after 11 wins, and now he's at West Virginia. He replaced Coach Holgerson, Dan Holgerson, that went to U of H, and Troy's head coach is now the head coach at West Virginia. So
early struggles from there too.
Early struggles at Troy. And now look at Troy University. They've been bowling ever since.
And even you mentioned Dana Holgerson at Houston. Early struggles.
He just, what are they now? 0-3.
They snuck a win. I'm not sure on Houston's record. I have to look at it. I think they snuck a win in there. But even like Scott Frost for Central Florida.
Right.
And now this is totally different deals than Texas State, but they went 1-11 their first year before being the powerhouse that they are now.
Yeah.
That's crazy to say UCF is a powerhouse.
Oh, they beat Prairie View.
Yeah,
so
okay.
U of H is 1-2 now.
Yeah, I knew that.
But they lost to Washington State this past. Yeah,
because I was watching. That's when I saw they had one when I was watching that game against Washington State.
That Prairie View game was a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it goes back to it's a difficult start, for any coach.
Yeah.
It's just the way.
You look, and on top of that, Keff, you look at U of H. They was an 8-4 team last year.
Yeah,
8-4. You look at them this year, and they're already out to a 1-2 start. Looks like they may have some troubles this year a little bit. So
because they had the personnel, obviously,
they're in U of H is in a way different position than we are because they won 8 games last year.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of thumbed out of this real quick. But here we go. I'm back in it now.
Don't worry, man. I'm stalling you out here.
Hey, you did great. That's a great job. I got a real pro on my team right here. All right, here we go. Our good friend Terry Lice at Lice Terry. Board program question.
Recruiting.
Board. No, right here.
No, like another recruiting question. My bad. Go ahead, Kev.
I got you. I thought you were saying I was reading Yeah. Is it time to panic in regards to recruiting? Spav did a little bit to shore up Withers recruits to round out week 2019 class. 2020 only has 5 commits and ranked among the weakest in the country currently. Where is the urgency in recruiting? Oh, there's definitely an urgency. I mean, we've talked about it a lot today. There's definite urgency as far as recruiting there. I mean, they need to get transfers. They want transfers.
Yeah.
JUCO, especially on the O-line, especially linebackers, there is an urgency with them there.
Yeah.
And honestly, to say that he finished out that 2019 class, they didn't have the whole scholarship allotment available to fill, because they were why they only had 15 or 16 this last class and not 25, the full allotment, was because they had enough scholarship players on roster that they couldn't bring in more guys. That's why you saw guys like Jared Hooper and Camberl Winters came in with the blue shirt or gray shirt, however they get around throwing them in the class right off the bat. That's why you saw those guys come in with that. This time he will have a full 25. With 30 guys leaving, he'll have a lot more scholarships to hand out. And there is a definite sense of urgency. Not seeing the results as far as commits with the 5 that they have, but they know it. They know it.
Yeah, they know it. And I'm not trying to. I'm really being positive with this staff, because I'm not trying to go into panic mode, because there's still time. It's still September. We're still looking for our first win. They're gonna get some momentum in recruiting going. I wouldn't. I am a little worried, but I wouldn't start panicking just yet. I know that they know that they have to go out there and get some good recruits. Mm-hmm. All right, those guys, I'm pretty sure those guys are recruiting. The only thing that where I have a little bit of worrisome in it is the fact that we just haven't had those splash, not even a couple yet. I just haven't seen it, and
the big commits.
The big commits. We usually by now have a couple of those, But again, this is a new staff. One thing that I want to see is normally every staff kind of, they come into a situation to where they have some headhunters on staff who are the recruiting headhunters. They go out and they do a hell of a job at recruiting. Withers had a couple of those on staff. He was one. I know. Even talking to some of those guys, he was a great recruiter. You had guys like, Coach Hill, the director of the high school relations. And,
yeah, he was great.
He was a great director of recruiting. Great, and turned great relationships with those teams. He got some good guys in there. That was a good addition to the Withers staff. You look at the Fran staff before that. Some of his best recruiters is, in Austin right now. And, Coach Jason Washington and Craig Niver.
Jake Lange, too.
Lange was a beast recruiter.
He's still doing it for them. He's doing a lot of great things.
In UT.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting. We really don't have that go-to guy yet with this Spav team that's like our recruiter. Ooh, that's the recruiter. All right, we have this recruiter. Oh, he's a beast recruiter. We just, it's just, I don't know. You have a lot of guys that are like
analytical, but they're not the salesman.
Right. And I don't know who that guy is yet.
Yeah.
I just don't know who it is. So hopefully as we start getting more and more of these commits, we start figuring out, who are our best salesmen on the team, So
that's an aspect I hadn't thought of, because even with Withers, the guy that I can really think of was John Strike or Stretch. Of course, Coach Hill.
Yeah.
Stretch was so good.
Stretch. There was one guy Stretch was a great, He was.
Anthony Crispino is another good one for Fran. He's
Fran.
up at SMU
Crispino
now.
was good. Yeah.
These are these lower director of player personnel, these type of positions where their main focus is recruiting.
Yeah.
And there's really like they that's something I hadn't thought of, is that they have a lot of guys with P5 experience that are real savants to the game of football, but there's another side to college football that is recruiting. It's a totally different beast than what happens on the field. It's almost like dating or sales or something.
Right.
How do you bring people in? And I will say, these guys coming from whether it's Tech or West Virginia, they come from these bigger schools where you show up to a high school football practice and you say, "Hey, we're with A&M.
Right.
Here's your offer," and they're excited. You don't need to sell much more than that. With Texas State, I hate to say it this way, not the prettiest girl at the ball. You kind of got to do a little more to stand out. You gotta really be persistent and do extra events on campus to get them here. And all that stuff, and that's something that is probably a change, and it's why you see the slow start with these guys. That is a different than what they're used to, and they're going to have to get used to it. They have to realize what that's about.
And that's when, and nowadays, that's where players and some former players and people who are around a lot of kids and a lot of athletes go into play. That's why a lot of FBS programs right now are bringing in former high school head coaches who have a lot of these great relationships with a lot of these, different high school programs and a lot of the kids, and then bringing them in over the director, over that, to help in recruiting and getting some of these kids. So I would love to see, a player like, somebody fill that position who has experience with being able to be around these kids, being around different programs, and just helping us get the right kind of people on campus. Somebody like a Sean Rutherford, for example.
I was about to say you. Me? I was going to suggest Mike Orakpo. That'd be good. Hey, Sean would be great too, though.
Man, Sean, let me tell you about Sean. Sean will get my plug and get my vote because, to be honest, Sean, when you look at Austin and Central Texas, there is not any. You go up into Houston, back towards Dallas, up into Austin, Central Texas. Even me, I know a lot of Texas State. A lot of people know of me, but there's not a lot of people that don't know who Sean is. You tell somebody, "Hey, man, I played for Texas State." They know Sean automatic. Then he has the they're doing the deal with Juice Football. He has their program going. They have, they're putting out over a dozen Division I kids out every year, dozen, FBS program kids out. That kind of connection is great for a school like Texas State, bringing somebody like that on staff and putting them in charge of their player development and, helping in recruiting.
And navigate those recruiting trails, those Texas recruiting.
Open that pipeline.
Yep.
Jake Lang does that stuff. There's another guy, Carrington, that does it for UT as well. Younger guy, the guy with the spiked hair up.
People keep trying to steal him.
Yeah, he's a hot commodity. I know he was at U of H. They brought him over to UT. He's actually the director of the recruiting there. And a lot of the kids, younger kids, they relate to him. He's not that much older than them, but he brings a lot of the swag and that young juice kind of energy to their recruiting trail. And that's why they're able to beat out a lot of these different teams around in recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They need to definitely step up in the recruiting area,
right,
for sure. I think that was it on his question. Where is there? Yeah, we answered that one. Let's see. Rack, Do we go 10-2 in 2014 if you never had the season-ending injury against Navy? And this is Cameron S. Dean. This is my buddy, actually. I actually know Cam. So what's up?
What up, Cam?
Good question there.
Good
Do the Bobcats go 10-2 if you don't get hurt?
Ah, man, y'all just opening up old wounds all the time, man. Let's just stop talking about Navy all the time. All right. Yeah. Do we go 10-2? I was injured. Yeah, that was a big injury. You're talking about one of the captain, of the defense of the team there. When the captain's on the team that year, it was a big injury. You look at Chris Nuttall had a big injury as well. Me and Nuttall, we always kind of group our injuries together because, that was a big blow for the defense, and then it's a big blow for the offense as well. So when you go back to our 7-5 record, and you look at 3 of those losses. One of them was Illinois. Another one, I believe, was South Alabama.
That's one that I was going to say should have won.
And then there was another one that was Georgia Southern. That was 3 points. Okay, I think we lost like 28-25, something like that. But I believe that we could have gotten all 3 of those wins had you input me on defense and then you input Chris Nuttall on offense. I believe that leaves us with 2 losses. ULL game, there ain't no way in hell. They got us that game that year. Then the other loss was to who was the other big loss we had that year? 7-5. I don't even remember. That year we had another loss was it App State? I don't remember who the other loss was, but there was 2.
That would have been their first year in the Sun Belt. I don't think it was App State.
I don't remember who that 7-5 loss was, but I know one of them was ULL. Who was the big team that we played that year? It was Illinois.
Still, we got this right here. Let's see this Texas State schedule 2014. Kicking it old school. What is this one?
Let's see where we at.
So
Navy was the other one.
Oh, of course. Well, that's why. Because we were already
because I said we're not going to talk about Navy.
That's of course.
So the Navy game was going to continue to be a loss, and then the ULL game was going to be a loss. That puts us at 2 losses. So at the very worst, you're looking at a 9-3 season.
Louisiana.
Realistic. Yeah, ULL.
ULL. Oh, yeah. You said ULL.
Realistically, we're looking at the very worst a 9-3, but I think we would have went 10-2. So I would agree. I think we would have went 10-2 that year.
I would too, because both of those injuries were huge.
Yeah.
You were the pass rush. You were the guy who was like, go get that quarterback.
Right.
You could do a little bit of coverage too. There was a lot to your game that was missing as soon as you were gone. And Nuttall was the same way. Rob, he wasn't the starter, but man, he spilled Rob Lowe like no one's business. I mean, you need that 1-2 punch in the run game, and when he went down, it wasn't as potent.
Yeah,
the run game wasn't as potent, and the pass rush wasn't as potent. And those are 2 aspects that are very, very important to the game.
Right.
So yeah, I would say so. I mean, we don't need to dwell on revisionist history over here, but I really do think
that Georgia Southern game was 28-20. My man, hey, when you remember some of those games was spot on, man. I remember the score of that game. That's
honestly,
crazy.
It's pretty impressive. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Because I mean, especially these 2. Gosh, late in the season too.
Yeah.
That could have ended the year on a 6-game winning streak.
Yeah.
With Louisiana Monroe, New Mexico State, and then the 3-point loss to Georgia Southern and a 4-point loss to South Alabama. Gosh, that could have been 9 right there. If you were in those 2 close games, no doubt. You know what's crazy though is that Navy game, the injury. I was on the sideline taking pictures in the Bobcat Report days when your injury happened.
Yeah.
I was my heart sunk as soon as I saw it because I knew it wasn't great.
Yeah.
I've seen you get up from a lot of stuff when you did, and I was like, dang. But yeah, tough times. Thanks for bringing that up, Cam.
Appreciate it.
Of course, it's the one guy I actually know in real life. But here we go. Cody Blankley. I know Cody too, actually. At @code_star. He says, what do you think has been going wrong with the running game, which we were told was the strength of the team coming out of fall camp? Who told you that?
Yeah.
Was it me probably? Yeah, it was definitely me. It's definitely me. I am shocked, and I didn't take into account that I knew they were air raid guys. They want to pass that ball. I didn't take into account that it would be that much passing
Right.
with the run game. But because I was wrong with the run game, I may let you take this. What do you think has been going wrong with the run game? What do they need to do different?
I mean, it's very simple. I mean, you just have to be able to block up front better. I mean, it's just O-line. I mean, that's it. Anytime you can't run the ball, every O-lineman in the country wants to run the football because they want to go out there, they want to put their hand in the ground, they want to whoop the guy in front of us, and they're wondering, like, why are we not running the ball? Run the dang ball, you know? And when I look at our offensive linemen coming to the sideline, they're not saying why we're not running the ball because every time we do try to run the ball, we're not getting yards, you know, so that means that we're not doing a good enough job up front in our run blocking. So we have to improve there to be able to run the ball. And I don't fault the coaches for not choosing to continue abandoning the run game the way they've been doing because we just have not had success on the ground.
Yeah, and you know, and I still thinking why I was so high on the run game is I still think that they have some pretty talented running backs, but everything's out of the shotgun and everything's set up for the pass. It's not really a running offense, and it's different than what they're used to. Because I mean, with Willie Jones, you'd get a lot of RPO, you'd get a lot of opportunities for them to get the ball and to keep moving.
Yeah.
So I'm with you though, 100%. It's blocking. It goes down to blocking.
Right.
But they're. Spavital knows it. He said it yesterday at his press conference that they definitely need to get that run game established. Yep. That was the first time he actually said that.
Yeah.
You know, after a loss. So I expect, and they did. They upped it. They've upped it every single game. It was 15 runs to 22 runs to 29 last week. So I mean, I think they'll get over 30 rushes this week. They got to find something though.
Yeah. I
mean, they have to. They have to take some relief off of these quarterbacks so that they don't stop turning it over all the time. But yeah, we got our last one. It's Justin Schaffer again. What's up, Justin? Shout out to Maroon and Golden. Let's see. If the NCAA allowed athletes to be paid by ESPN, Fox, etc., and sign endorsement deals, how do they prevent blue chip programs from having an advantage over every other program? The divide between the top 15 programs and the rest of the FBS would grow exponentially. And saying if they allowed them to pay the athletes.
This was based off of my video.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I understand the question.
Yeah, preventing them to take advantage. Well, I mean, that happens now.
that was right on.
Yeah.
That was my exact response. But, you know, in terms of being paid by ESPN and endorsement deals, what I was meaning is
they all get an equal cut.
Yeah, well, what I mean by the gap is when you go to a University of Texas, you know, the meals that they're getting, the stipends are more there, the meals that they're getting are more there, the rooms and dorms are bigger, the facilities are bigger. It's so many different things that they're getting that's so much better because they have more money to give to their players versus when you're at a smaller school that they don't have the budget. You know, you can't compare a University of Texas budget to a Central Michigan's budget. You see what I'm saying? So that's the gap. So the gap will be, and you said the 15 programs, there's going to be about 15 to 30 programs that can afford to do the certain things that those bottom 30 programs cannot, and it's already there. In terms of being paid by ESPN, Fox, or whatever, what will happen is these companies, it's an easy fix. It's the companies already have a split of that conferences get. The Sun Belt does not make the same as the SEC conference. It's a gap there. The Sun Belt may get $1 million for the whole conference. In the SEC, Alabama may get 1 point something million just for their one team. You know, what we get as a conference, one team gets in the SEC. So that's the gap. So what'll happen is the TV networks will split a revenue to the players of conference or whatever, affiliation or whatever, depending on whatever their likeness is. So, for example, if we used, whatever this running back is or whatever, if we used, give me a quarterback. What's homie from? Give me a random.
Shane Buechele.
No, well, give me a big SEC quarterback.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, if we use Tua, if they use Tua in commercials and they're talking about him on TV time during halftime shows, pregame, and they're always showing him and his highlights and whatever, he's gonna make more based off of his likeness that they've used than a Tyler Vitt or somebody like that they're not quite using as much. So he's going to be able to cash out a little bit more than a smaller school type of quarterback. So, that's the difference in it, and I see that. So what his question was, he says, how do they prevent blue chip programs from having an advantage over every other program? It's already there. It's already there.
Right.
There's already an advantage there. That's why most kids, they're going to go to a much bigger program than another program.
Yeah, because the benefits that are already in place.
Because the benefits are already in place.
Playing on a bigger team. And, I mean, the conference with the SEC, like you were talking about, like how they all make a certain amount. But it's equal. It's not like Alabama's making more than Tennessee on those TV deals. I mean, I don't think so.
No, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, right there wouldn't be like Alabama's paying more than these schools if they're all paying the same amount. If A&M's getting the same share to their players,
right? It's
all equal in that sense. The money from the TV deals, I should say.
Yeah, G5 programs aren't on a level playing field in terms of benefits and things as some of these top premier programs in the country. Like the top 10 programs, the G5 programs it's hard to compete with them facility wise, budget wise, and things like that. So they will never be on the equal playing field.
Yeah.
It's not like that now, and it won't be like that then.
There's a huge difference between P5 and G5.
It's a huge difference.
I mean, it is.
You're naive to think that there's a huge difference. So, there's going to be a recruiting advantage for if you go to this school, you're making more. There is now. I mean, who's going to turn down going to, the University of Alabama or going to UTSA? Cool. Will UTSA ever beat out Alabama for a recruit?
Probably not.
It will never happen. It's never going to happen, and it's not happening now. It won't happen after they start whatever they do.
Yeah. But I think that was our last one. It's a good one to end it on for sure. I think we covered it all.
Yeah.
We answered all the questions, and we talked about the game upcoming this week. Thanks for tuning in this week. Please follow us on Twitter at the Fifth Quarter _ Instagram. Give them the Instagram.
Fifth Quarter Podcast on IG.
And don't forget to follow SHN Sports at SHN Sports. They produce this whole deal. The green screen. Carl Schoening back there doing a great job. Make sure you go follow them and hit them up if you ever want to do any kind of podcast or broadcast or anything like that. Make sure you follow their YouTube page as well. Go find them on there because that's where we upload all our videos. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, all the good big places there for us. And that'll do it for us here. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's get it.